Hello everyone. This video will go over part 1 of AP Style's use of commas. Commas are perhaps one of the most difficult aspects of grammar for young writers to get. There are lots of different comma rules, but once you really understand these rules, you will be a better writer for it because your writing will be a lot more clear and you'll be able to help guide your reader in really complex sentences. Plus, commas save lives, so it's really important that we study the rules of grammar so that we can all be heroes and save people. Now, the main rule for AP Style that kind of overrides all other rules is clarity. If using a comma provides more clarity in the sentence, then you want to use it. If taking out or not using a comma makes the sentence more clear, then you want to take that comma out. We try to use as few commas as possible in AP Style, but as a guiding rule, if you believe adding a comma will make the sentence more clear, then that is probably the best thing to do. Now, as I said, we try to use as few commas as possible, and that is why the AP Style does not use an Oxford comma. So an Oxford comma is one that goes before a conjunction in a series. So a series is 3 or more words that are combined through the use of commas and conjunctions, like the bus was full of crazy people, you and your friends. And so Oxfords are the ones that are placed before the conjunction, but in AP Style, we do not use a comma before the conjunction. So if you are writing for English or other types of writing, you are likely using Oxford commas. Make sure you are not using Oxford commas for AP Style. This is perhaps the thing that is missed most on AP Style quizzes because we are so used to writing Oxford commas. So here's an example of not using the Oxford comma, the correct AP Style. The flag's colors are red, white, and blue. You'll notice there is no comma between the word white and because we don't put a comma before the conjunction in AP Style. But of course, we have exceptions to this. When you have a series, you need to make clear whether it's a series or whether you're offsetting a non-essential clause. So a lot of times when you're writing a series and you don't want to make it seem like a non-essential clause, then you will put a comma before the conjunction. Here's an example. Before registering for classes, I talked to my favorite instructors, Danielle Devers and Bruce Finkley. Without the comma between Devers and, it makes it sound like you're using a non-essential clause where your favorite instructors are me and Dr. Finkley. But if you add a comma between Devers and, now you've made this a series. Before registering for classes, I talked to my favorite instructors, Danielle Devers and Bruce Finkley. Now, Danielle and Bruce are no longer your favorite instructors. They are just two people outside of your favorite instructors that you've spoken to. Ouch. I hope I'm one of your favorite instructors. But you can see the difference in meaning just by using or not using a comma here. So when you have something that could be mistaken for a non-essential clause, use the comma before the conjunction to make it clear whether it's a series or a non-essential clause. If one of the objects of the series needs a conjunction to make it that object, place a comma before the conjunction of the series. Here's an example. My favorite breakfast foods are pancakes, coffee, and bacon and eggs. Bacon and eggs is a very commonly used phrase that are used together to mean one thing. And so we would place the comma between coffee and the word and to denote which parts are a series. So there are three things: pancakes, coffee, and bacon and eggs being treated as one object. If you're using a series that is particularly complex, you need to add a comma before a conjunction to help clarify it. So again, we go back to that rule of clarity. This usually happens when you're using multiple prepositional phrases or non-essential clauses within a series. The example provided from your textbook is: the main points to consider are whether the athletes are skillful enough to compete, whether they have the stamina to endure the training, and whether they have the proper mental attitude. So because the prepositional phrases, non-essential clauses here are much longer, placing the commas between training and allows the reader to know that there is a stop point there. They can pause and take in that third point. We also use commas when we have more than one adjective describing a noun. If two adjectives are being used and you could place "and" between them without changing the meaning, then you would use a comma to separate them. A dark, stormy night. We could also say a dark and stormy night, but the comma allows us to be a little more brief in our writing, a little more concise. And so we would take out the word and replace it with a comma there. Thoughtful, precise response. Thoughtful and precise response. That means these two adjectives are equal, and therefore we would place a comma between them. However, if there's an adjective before a noun that is part of the noun, you will not use a comma to offset it and another adjective. So a brown fur coat, we wouldn't take away fur from the word coat because it's part of the noun. So therefore we really only have one true adjective here. The other is really more of a descriptor for coat that relies on coat relies on fur for its complete meaning. So we would not say brown and fur coat. We would say brown fur coat. And so therefore we would not use a comma here. Non-essential clauses and phrases, which we've covered in previous AP lessons, are set off by commas. So the class instructor, Danielle Devers, loves Disney World, a theme park in Florida. So here we have two non-essential clauses and phrases. The first is my name, because I'm the only instructor in the class, so therefore adding my name does not add anything to the meaning of the sentence. And then theme park in Florida is another non-essential phrase because it just describes what Disney World is in further detail, but doesn't change the meaning of the sentence. So therefore, we're going to offset Danielle Devers and a theme park in Florida with commas. Introductory clauses and phrases are also set off by commas. When she gets sad is an introductory clause because you have a preposition and then a phrase, and it's set at the beginning of the sentence. So when she gets sad, she thinks about all the fun she'll have on her next Disney trip. So we have offset the introductory phrase with a comma to separate it from the independent clause of she thinks about all the fun she'll have on her next Disney trip. You can omit a comma if the introductory clause is less than 3 words or 3 words or less, and you really don't need the comma for clarity. So during the night, he heard many noises. There's really not a reason to put a comma here because it doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence at all. But in the second example, on the street, the curious gathered, you really need the reader to pause there to fully understand what the noun and verb are in the independent clause, because it could get kind of confusing without that pause. On the street, the curious gathered, you know, it could get confusing as you're reading it. So I would offset that with a comma as an introductory clause. Conjunctions like and, but, or for are used to link two independent clauses, and when they are used in that way, you need to put a comma before the conjunction. So any regular sentence, if you'll look at the bottom sentence, as an example, she dances and she sings. There are two independent clauses or two complete sentences there that are linked by a conjunction. So therefore we would put a comma before the and. Same with the day was sunny. So the family went on a hike. So the day was sunny is a sentence. The family went on a hike is a sentence. They are combined by the conjunction so, and you would put a comma before so. If both clauses have a subject, you'll likely need a comma before the conjunction. Disney World is her favorite place to visit, but she likes to go hiking too. So here we have the subject of Disney World in the first sentence. We have the subject of she in the second sentence. That denotes that it's likely two independent clauses being linked by a conjunction. So we would put a comma before but. If both verbs are using the same expressly stated subject, then no comma is needed. So if the second sentence does not have a subject, or it's not explicitly stating the same subject again, then it's considered not two independent clauses. It's the conjunction is combining two verbs as opposed to two sentences, and we would therefore not need a comma. So she dances and sings does not need a comma because you are not having two expressly stated subjects. But if we say she dances and she sings, even though we are using the same subject, we would still put a comma between because we expressly stated the subject twice. So now that we've gone over the first half of the rules for AP Stylebook, I want you to watch AP Commas video part 2, which will mainly address quotations and direct address. Then you will do your AP Commas homework, which will be due on Tuesday, September 29th. This will be longer than your typical homework assignment for AP because it's really combining the ideas behind commas part 1 and commas part 2. So make sure you give yourself enough time to complete that. Also this week, you will need to complete writing assignment 3, which encourages you to write using the persuasion topic points. And that will be due on Thursday, October 1st.